Mr. Tenderism, sociopaths, and friendship. We gonna get into it. Let's get it. Welcome. First of all, welcome. This is Unsolicited Perspectives. I am your host, Bruce Anthony, here to lead the conversation in important events and topics that are shaping today's society. Join the conversation and follow us wherever you get your audio podcasts. Subscribe to our YouTube channel for our video podcasts, YouTube exclusive content, and our YouTube membership. Rate, review, like, comment, share. Share with your friends, share with your family, hell, even share with your enemies. On today's episode, I'll be talking about Mr. Tenderism, Kristi Noem, and are they really your friends? But that's enough of the intro. Let's get to the show. You know, people joke with me all the time is that I'm Mr. Entrepreneur. I don't know that I'm a successful entrepreneur. I will put that up front. I've started a lot of businesses and I've ended a lot of businesses. Some of them I had the choice in, some of them I didn't have the choice in. But yes, I am a creative person that will come up with an idea and concept and just go. I will figure out how to do it as I'm doing it. Don't know if that's a good thing to have or a bad thing to have. That's just who I am. The podcast started just because I woke up one morning and I said, I'm finally going to do this because it was an idea that I'd had in my head for decades. And I just woke up one morning and said, I bought the equipment. And I said, Jay, we're about to do a podcast. Didn't ask, just said, we're about to do a podcast. So yes, I will come up with an idea. I will start a business and I will just go. I have had times where I've had business partners. And I don't really work well with others in the aspect of it's my idea, it's my creation. I have a vision of how I want it to go. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not willing to listen to advice, counsel, consultants, things of that nature. That's not the same thing. But I like having the final decision, not because I'm a control freak, but because I don't want my idea to be stolen from me. It's kind of the reason why this show hasn't signed a deal yet. This show will only sign a deal if it's to my liking because I created the show and I'll be damned if somebody else comes in and changes the show and it's no longer my vision of what the show is. Not if they come up with great ideas, because some people have given me suggestions and I've taken them. I'm talking specifically about changing what I have. This all leads me to Mr. Tenderism. So, for those who are not in my algorithm and don't know who Mr. Tenderism is, Mr. Tenderism, his real name is Walter Johnson Sr. There's a junior out there. He's the viral California pitmaster whose catchphrase, "That's Tenderism," blew up on social media last year. He became the face of Destination Smokehouse. It's in Marietta, California, drawing huge crowds and celebrity attention, but recently split from the restaurant amid disputes over ownership, branding, and the Tenderism trademark. Now he's building his own brand independently, raising money for a food truck, and cooking privately for celebrities. His phrase, Mr. Tenderism, became a viral catchphrase on social media. Like I said, in 2025, he brought crowds to the smokehouse, Destination Smokehouse. The location was originally a coffee shop and it evolved into a barbecue spot. Now, details on the origin of it becoming Destination Smokehouse are a little hard to pin down. From what I can gather, the owner of this coffee shop was doing okay business. He might have been getting ready to go under, but he's doing okay business, right? And he met Mr. Tenderism, or was working at the coffee shop, and it was Mr. Tenderism's suggestion to start selling barbecue. And so the coffee shop evolves from a coffee shop to a smokehouse, which It's a hell of an evolution. Like, I don't know if I've seen any type of evolution from a restaurant. Something that's a coffee shop that might sell, I don't know, like breakfast stuff, muffins, danishes, things of that nature, little knickknacks, little bars or whatever like that, from actually being a smokehouse. And when I say smokehouse, if anybody has seen these viral videos, the meat is literally falling off the bone. That's been his things. And celebrities from all around have come to eat at this establishment and actually be in the presence of Mr. Tenderism. Now, as this viral thing blew up, people started to realize, oh, he's not the owner. The owner is this other guy, which is fine, right? Like, sometimes you spotlight people. I've had companies where I'm not the main attraction. I never actually want to be the main attraction, right? Now, people say, well, Bruce, you have your show and it has your name on it. If you've been paying attention, I have slowly been removing my name from the imaging because I wanted to be Unsolicited Perspectives podcast, not with Bruce Anthony. Bruce Anthony will always be the guy either behind the scenes or doing the interviews, but I know my sister is the star of the show, right? My guests that I interview are the stars of the show. I'm just Seinfeld, right? I'm just the name of the show. But the key players that make the show go, just like a Seinfeld, Elaine and Kramer and George, they made the show. Jerry was the front man, and I'm just the front man. So if you are the front man, you would think you own it. Sometimes you're not the front man. Sometimes a business owner will put somebody in front of them because they're more charismatic. They can drive the crowds, and the owner just can't do that. Here's the problem. When you have a business and you put somebody else in the forefront, and that person is what's driving your business, the smart business aspect is make sure that you don't piss them off, because you were just a coffee shop before he entered the picture. Now, your ego may say it was my idea to transition the coffee shop to the smokehouse, and look what I did. But in reality, it was this man's recipes. It was this man's cooking. It was this man's personality on social media that drew people to your building, that drew people to your establishment. That's the golden goose, baby. You got to make sure the golden goose stays fed and is happy and pampered and sheltered. That it may also mean you give them a little piece of your business. Why wouldn't you do something like that? They're the reason that your business is growing. You ain't got to give them half. You could give them 10, 15, 20, 25%. You're still the majority owner. But your presence is still there, but he's set up and taken care of. This man is 75 years old, Mr. Tenderism, right? 75 years old. Throw him some cash, keep him happy. But what did the owner try to do? The owner, when it got out on social media that Mr. Tenderism was not the owner, people were kind of like, oh, okay, we kind of get it, but that's a little jacked up. And then the owner wouldn't allow a famous influencer, I think his name is Keith Lee, a famous influencer that's a food critic, wanted to leave a $4,000 tip, and the owner wouldn't accept it, right? The owner wouldn't accept Keith Lee leaving that $4,000 tip. That really rubbed people the wrong way. And then the owner tries to go around everybody's back and trademark Mr. Tenderism, the actual quote, the term. Now, when this all happened, and this happened probably about 3-4 months ago, social media was in an uproar. Like, how could you go around his back when the whole reason why you're in the successful position that Destination Smokehouse is in is because Mr. Tenderism. You should be looking out for him. Even if you trademark it, you should make sure that he gets a piece of that trademark as well, that his name is on that as well, because it was his idea. Mr. Tenderism came out and said, nah, that's my boy. It's all good. Well, fast forward to months later, I guess it might not be his boy anymore, because His tenderism isn't there anymore, but he's going to be all right. You know why he's going to be all right? Because it's his recipe. It's his personality. And people are going to stop going to Destination Smokehouse because he won't have the recipe or the personality. And all the people and the celebrities who were coming to see Mr. Tenderism are going to boycott. So you just screwed up your business. But Mr. Tenderism, he's going to be all right. But it goes to the question of who owns what? Obviously, this dude is the owner. Good business says, don't think that you drove that business because of you. Recognize who got you to the dance and reward them. Because Mr. Tenderism left and he's cooking for celebrities. It was just on social media a couple of days ago. He was cooking for Ron Isley and the whole crew. Popping. Celebrities are having him pop up everywhere to come. Mr. Tenderism is going to be all right. He is. Destination Smokehouse? I don't know. But here's the uncomfortable part people don't want to talk about. Look, this Mr. Tenderism situation is a lesson a lot of people learn the hard way. Because in business, a handshake is not a contract. Now, don't get me wrong. I grew up in a time where your word meant something. If somebody shook your hand and said, "We good," that meant you were good. That meant honor. That meant integrity. But the problem is, business ain't built on feelings. Business is built on paperwork. See, when money shows up, when fame shows up, when someone goes viral and the cameras start rolling, suddenly everybody remembers the conversation a little differently. You think you had an understanding. You think you had an agreement. And the lawyer says, well, what does the contract say? And when the contract says nothing, now you got a problem. Because there are two kinds of people in business. The first kind believes we're partners. The second kind believes, show me the paperwork. And guess which one usually wins? The one with the paperwork. That's not cynicism. That's protection. Because a contract isn't about expecting the worst from people. It's about protecting the best parts of the relationship before money complicates it. A contract says, this is what we agreed to. This is what belongs to you. This is what belongs to me. So nobody has to guess later. Now, I'm not saying Mr. Tenderism didn't trust the people he was working with. And I'm not saying that they didn't trust him. But trust without paperwork in business is like cooking brisket without a thermometer. You might get lucky, but chances are something's going to get burned. And the real lesson here is simple. If your talent is building something valuable, make sure you own part of what you're building. Because your word is powerful. But in business, your signature is power. You know, I've talked about this before, but I'm going to reintroduce this for some of my new listeners and watchers and connect the dots. Follow me on this one because this segment is going to go not all around the place. I'm not weaving like the current president of the United States where you won't be able to follow. But there's a point here that I'm trying to make, so just bear with me. It is interesting going back and watching movies that I watched as a kid in the 80s. I remember probably about 10 years ago, maybe even longer than that, maybe about 15 years ago, I decided to rewatch the original RoboCop movie. I remember watching it as a kid. And when it came out, I had to be like 8 or 9 when it first came out. RoboCop was a big deal. I was a RoboCop fan. Now, as an adult, as I'm watching this movie, the opening scenes are worse than anything that I've seen in SVU and extremely graphic, both in its violence and in its sexual nature. And I was thinking to myself, how the hell did I watch this as a 9 or 10-year-old kid? Like, I turned it off because I was just detested by what I was seeing on my screen. And at that time, it was like a 30-year-old movie, right? But what I was seeing alarmed me so much, I said, I don't want to watch the rest of this movie. Another movie that I watched later as an adult was Back to the Future. Back to the Future is a comedy. It's a comedy. And this movie was made in 84, 85. I remember watching it as a little kid. And the themes that I saw as a little kid didn't resonate as they did when I got older and saw it through adult eyes. And one of the things that I picked up on was Biff. Biff is a sociopath. His violent assault on Lorraine, Marty McFly's mother, was played off as a comedic bullying trope, reflecting how the phrase boys will be boys normalized aggression for decades. That same cultural habit minimized harmful behavior until it became unavoidable and could show up in real life. What do I mean? In that movie, Biff tries to murder Marty McFly several times. Several times. Legitimately murder him. And it's supposed to be a comedy. Boys will be boys. In that movie, Biff tries to sexually assault Marty McFly's mother. She is screaming and yelling, no, stop. He told his boys, meanwhile, his boys are there. They know what he's about to do. He tells his boys, there's about 3 of them, to take Marty McFly, throw him in the trunk. They're going to take care of him later. What does take care of him later mean? I don't know, but he's already tried to run him over with the car. Meanwhile, when he sends his boys off, he's going to sexually assault Marty McFly's mother. This is a comedy. I think it was rated PG-13, maybe in the 1980s. And it was brushed off as boys will be boys. That's how men acted during that time. The basis of Back to the Future was based in the 1950s, not 50s, but nothing changed when they showed it in the 80s. Nothing. And then guys get upset talking about the Me Too movie went too far. No, it did not. Women have been dealing with stuff like Biff, and you may say to yourself, I'm not a Biff. Yeah, but there are a lot of Biffs out there, okay? A lot of them who women are screaming and yelling, stop it. His boys are there. They're not stopping it. Her boyfriend, the guy that she went to prom with, Marty McFly's father, knocking on the door saying, hey, yo, stop. Biff opens the door, said, beat it, close the door. Marty McFly's father got the guts to challenge Biff. If he didn't win that fight, Biff was going to beat him up, assault Marty McFly's mother, and probably kill Marty McFly. And this was Boys Will Be Boys. Society often normalizes troubling behavior when it's familiar stereotypes. The bully, the tough leader, the aggressor alpha personality. Over time, what looks like harmless bravado can reveal patterns of entitlement or cruelty that were always present. Cultural nostalgia sometimes blinds people to how disturbing certain behavior actually was. This is a clear example of how, during that time when I watched the movie, even my parents, who were, if I'm 5 years old, my parents were in their mid to late 20s. They were kids themselves. They probably didn't think about it, didn't see the themes. When I rewatched this movie, I was in my early to mid 30s. And then I saw the themes and I was like, yo, wait a minute here. But this was a movie, a very popular movie that nobody really ever thinks about. How these ideas of Biff and his actions were normalized, brushed off, set aside as not a big deal. I remember being in middle school and high school in the mid and late 90s. Groping women wasn't that big of a deal. Nobody got in trouble. Hell, we were still doing it when we were in college at the clubs. Good friend of mine said she couldn't walk through a crowd of guys without being touched. And just felt helpless, like it is what it is, nothing's gonna ever happen. I remember talking to women in the club as I was dancing with them. I eventually got to the point where I would ask them if I could touch them, because there was a point where I wasn't asking. And I got older, got more mature, and thank God for the women in my life that schooled me and gave me, I don't know, empathy to what the plight of women were in these clubs. And the recognition that I also had a sister who was coming up behind me and was about to enter into these clubs, right? And I remember asking. Some of them would say yes, some of them would say no. And then I would talk to them about their situation. I'm talking about women that would meet at the club, and they're just like, yeah, guys are fresh. And then some of them would just be resolved to the fact they're going to touch. There's nothing I can do about it. If I want to go out and have fun, this is just what I got to accept. Think about that. Think about that. And it just doesn't stop there. When people, young Black people, and I was one of them, quick to say, well, I wouldn't have done I wouldn't have gone through slavery. I would have fought back. I wouldn't have gone through the civil rights. I would have fought. I wouldn't have done that. I would have gone wherever I wanted to go. No, you wouldn't have. Because it gets to a point where you're beat down so much, you give up. And that treatment becomes normalized, becomes accepted. And it's not looked at as being inhumane. It's looked at it as, that's just a Tuesday. And that's a sad commentary on human nature. To disregard the cruelty of certain people. Now, I said all of that to say this. In her 2024 memoir, No Going Back, Kristi Noem described killing her 14-month-old wired-haired pointer named Cricket. Here's an excerpt from the book. I hated that dog. This was my dog and my responsibility. I stopped the truck, got my gun, grabbed Cricket's leash, and led her out to pasture and down into the gravel pit. Now, she explained the decision by saying the dog was untrainable after killing chickens and biting her. And the story did spark significant backlash, with critics arguing the description showed unnecessary cruelty and poor judgment. Now, why did I start with Biff? There's a reason. Because when things are presented to you, when cruelty, inhumane actions are presented to you, sometimes you can't see them. Sometimes you can, and even then you make excuses for it. At the top, I said sociopath. What are the key indicators of somebody as a child being recognized as a sociopath or psychopath? It's doing harm to animals. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of people out there. Two very dear friends of mine, well, one extremely dear friend of mine and another good friend of mine, recently had to put down their dogs. I have immense sympathy for having to put down your dog because I had to put down mine. And it is literally, in my 45 years of existence, the toughest day of my entire life. He wasn't the first dog that I've had to put down. He was my dog, not the family dog. He was my dog. And I don't know that I fully recovered from it. It's been a couple of years, and I don't know that I fully recovered from it because that was my homie. So I feel immense sympathy for my friends who had to do that. They had to do it because the dog was sick and was going to die. Cancer. Crypto had complete kidney failure. He was almost comatose when I had to put him down. I was at the vet, and I was like, he isn't like moving around and stuff like that. Did y'all drug him up? They were like, no, that's just how he is now. I had to put him down. That's the humane thing to do. I'm not talking about that. That's not what Kristi Noem did. Kristi Noem took a puppy. Let's be clear. A puppy that she decided she was having a tough time training. And instead of paying for better training, because if I got a dog, and I've trained dogs before, if I got a dog and I can't really train a dog, I'm going to pay somebody who is a professional to do it for me. And if after that training I still can't help the dog, I'll give up the dog for adoption. Because maybe somebody else will have maybe it's just my energy, maybe it's just my temperament. Dogs pick up on that. Dogs absolutely pick up on that. But there are options there, right? She didn't take any of those options. She got it in her mind that this is what needed to be done. If you think this is an isolated incident, I'm not talking like she's a puppy killer, but if you think that this is an isolated incident, and a lot of people had to in order for her to become Secretary of Home Security, you're crazy. It's not an isolated incident. You don't just wake up one morning and have the lack of empathy, the lack of human decency to just take a dog down into a pasture, into a gravel pit, and shoot it. That's what she did. But critics later pointed to a story as an early example of Noem's blunt and sometimes controversial decision-making style. And during her tenure as Secretary of Homeland Security, she faced criticism over aggressive enforcement policies and confrontational leader tactics. Like that wasn't foreseen? Okay, I'm gonna connect the dots for you. If somebody is so callous to drive a car, make a decision, I'm gonna kill this dog. Put the dog on a leash, walk it out the pasture, take it down in a gravel pit, and put holes in it from a gun. The visual itself has got to be alarming. But for some people, to not see that as an indictment on her empathy and human decency is mind-blowing to me. She showed that she couldn't care less about an animal, a pet that was hers. With the way that she was talking and dehumanizing people here that are undocumented, why would we think that she wouldn't treat them just as poorly as she treated Cricket? According to reporting, Donald Trump removed Kristi Noem as Secretary of the United States Department of Homeland Security on March 5th, 2026, following mounting controversies. What were some of these controversies? The fatal shootings during the protests in Minneapolis. Two people got killed. And she immediately came out and said they were domestic terrorists. See what I said? The dehumanizing, the callousness, the lack of empathy. She also ran ads. You've seen them. I've seen them on YouTube way too many times. She spent $220 million ads for border advertisement where she was the focal person. It was all about her, right? It was leadership disputes and management problems inside DHS, conflicts with other federal agencies. She also had some personal scandals that intensified political pressure. Two of them. One is hearsay. She's having an affair with her second in command. That's a government no-no, right? They fly on these private planes. They got a back room. It's the romance room. It's the boom boom room. That's hearsay. Hasn't been confirmed. What also is a problem is there's $143 million, give or take, I don't know the exact number because I don't have those notes right in front of me, that was paid out to a government contractor. The only problem is the government contractor doesn't have a website, doesn't have anybody to work for him, doesn't have an information line, doesn't have an information email address. Find out that this contracting agency or this company that's got this government contract is listed under a political operative name that she had former ties with back in the day when she was in Congress. And this company doesn't do anything. 143 million. So 220 million on advertisement boasting her, and 143 million on some other stuff. And she even had congressional hearings recently, and there was bipartisan criticism on how she's running things. And how is she running things? They're breaking law. ICE is breaking the law. They're killing folks. You can't go around killing white folks in this country. Even if they're leftist liberals, you can't go around killing white folks in this country. Now, you can kill everybody else and get away with it. They've been doing it for centuries. You can't kill white people. And they didn't kill not one, but two innocent people. And then try to put the blame on them. But that wasn't the real reason. Reports say the real reason why Trump finally let her go is because he wasn't a fan of those $220 million advertisements. And she put them advertisements out there during the congressional hearings. She said that Trump gave the okay. So he didn't care about the fact that she got two bodies on her belt. He didn't care about the backlash of these people, ICE going into homes and with no judicial right and holding people with no judicial right. He didn't give a damn about any of that. What he cared about was the fact that his name was attached to some commercials that he wasn't a fan on. He was like, nah, she got to go. She ain't gonna attach me to that. That's crazy. That's crazy. I started with Biff and Kristi Noem because I want to paint a picture of the moral gymnastics that we do to get what we want. But here's the uncomfortable part people don't want to talk about. You know, what the real lesson in all of this is, people don't just excuse bad behavior because they don't see it. A lot of times we excuse it because we think it benefits us. See, when Biff was acting crazy in Back to the Future, the movie played it off like it was just a loudmouth bully. But if you really watch those scenes now as an adult, the man wasn't just a bully. He was dangerous. He was violent. He was somebody who felt entitled to other people's lives. But back then, the culture said, oh, that's just boys will be boys. And we've done it in real life too. Sometimes we see somebody's cruelty, their arrogance, their lack of empathy. And instead of asking whether they should have power, we start asking different questions. Will they help me? Will they help my party? Will they help my side? Will they help my taxes? Will they help my career? Will they help my agenda? And once we ask those questions, or even one of those questions, suddenly all the red flags start looking like declarations. We start explaining things away. It's just their personality. It's just how they grew up. That's just how people talk where they're from. They didn't really mean it like that. We build whole stories in our head just to avoid the obvious. Because the truth is very uncomfortable. If someone shows you they're callous with life, if they show you they don't value empathy, if they show you they think power means doing whatever they want, then the problem isn't that we didn't see it. The problem is we decided it wasn't a deal breaker. until it was. And that's something society does over and over again. We ignore the warning signs when they don't affect us. And then act shocked when the same behavior shows up later, just with more power behind it. But people rarely become cruel overnight. Most of the time, they were telling you who they were the whole time. We just kept making excuses because we thought they might be useful. But people rarely become cruel overnight. Most of the time, they were telling you who they were the whole time. We just kept making excuses because we thought they were useful. You know, friendship is a funny thing. I don't think that I've told this story on this show before, but it's part of a larger point. So if I have told this story before, this segment isn't about solely this story. It's about friendship. So many, many years ago, it's like Star Wars, many years ago, I had a friend. And that friend said that he had the perfect woman for me. He said, look, she's a friend of mine. I think y'all would hit it off. Y'all have interests and personalities that I think would merge. And I said, okay, I really don't like being set up, but like this was a particular friend that never did stuff like that. And so I was like, because you're my friend, you know, I'm going to give it a shot. I said, let's not make it uncomfortable. Let's not have it as a setup. Just let me know the next time you hanging out with her in a group setting and just invite me. So he did. And he invited me out and I met her. And we did hit it off. We hit it off, exchanged numbers, said, let's keep in touch. We would text every now and then it was like, hey, let's get together. And we got together. And we hit it off. And I wouldn't say that we were dating, but we definitely went out on dates. More than a few. Over an extended period of time. She didn't really live close to me. She lived about an hour away. And our work schedules didn't really mesh. But like we saw each other, you know, over a span of, I don't know, 3-4 months. And enough for her to text me every single day. We talked every single day. And me and my friend had another mutual friend. So it was there was three guys. And I was telling our mutual friend about it. Like, yeah, you know, he hooked me up with Shorty, and Shorty is cool. Like it could be something, you know, it could be something. We're having a good time when we hang out. And my other boy was like, yeah, like he's been saying something different. And I was like, well, what is he saying? He's saying like, she ain't really feeling you and this and that. And I was like, that's odd because I got this text message exchange that says that she does. See? And my boy's like, no, you seem like she do like you. I don't know what our boy is talking about, but that's just what he's giving. And then I would find out from her that my boy, the one that set us up, was kind of throwing subliminals. He's kind of low key, like throwing shade my way to her when he's talking about me. And she would tell me. First, I'm getting annoyed at her because I'm like, yo, you trying to throw a wedge between my boy and me? But then it got to a point where I was like, I know this cat. I knew him for a while. He's kind of a hater. I always knew that about him. He's kind of a hater. But this was his idea. This wasn't like I went out to go pursue his friend. It's his idea to set us up. Why would he try to sabotage it? It just didn't make sense to me. Then one night, I was out with my boy to set us up. And I was like, yo, I should call Shorty because she wasn't far from the area. She didn't live far from the area. I was like, I should call Shorty to come out and hang out with us. Because once again, Shorty is his friend, right? And he was like, oh, I already smashed that. You was taking too long. And I was like, okay. See, to me, the game's the game. if she's not my girl, all bets is off. Not his girl, all bets is off. I have a little bit of integrity and loyalty to my friendships to say, hey, look, Shorty been kind of like DMing me, coming at me or whatever. I just want to let you know, y'all not together or anything. I might pursue that if it's cool with you. We have actually had those conversations prior with other women. So I didn't understand why he didn't do it in this moment. And it affected our friendship. Never trusted him again. And he's not, he's never trusted him again. Okay. But that's crazy because that's friendship. It is. And it's a sad thing, but I wasn't really pressed about it. I didn't love her. And it also says something to me about her because she didn't tell me about it. She kind of just disappeared when she was texting me every day. I charged her to the game. It is what it is. Lord knows I done broken a lot of hearts and she didn't break my heart. I was disappointed in the situation. That's what I was disappointed in. But that's kind of how friendships will work. Friendships will kind of disappoint you because the only people that could hurt us deeply are family and friends. And sometimes your friends can hurt you worse than your family. Why am I bringing all this up? Just a little boy who I've said before, y'all probably follow him on Instagram, don't even realize who it is, but he is very popular on Instagram. He has a podcast, but this was his Instagram post. And he said, pardon my French, what's the grimiest shit a friend has ever did to you? Let me hear y'all stories. So, of course, I went down into the comments. Why did I go down to the comments? Because I'm messy and I want to hear some of these grimy stories. That is perhaps the grimiest story for me. There is somebody that set me up to be robbed, but they weren't truly my friend. They weren't somebody that I kicked it with hard. They were somebody cursory in like a group that I was in. Somebody did set me up to get robbed and I almost got robbed, but that's a different story for a different day. I want to get to these comments from underneath the post. So one of the comments, and I'm going to go through 6 of them and then make my little comments about it. Because when I went through these comments, I was just like, yeah, well, what my boy at the time did wasn't even really that bad. Okay, so this is one. This person said, my former friend stole my money, helped me look for it, and took me to get food with my money. Now, look, hold on. I don't like losing money. That's the reason why I don't gamble no more. I don't like losing money. I detest it. I'll be damned if somebody steal my money. And I'll be especially double damned if somebody steal my money that's my friend. And I'll be especially triple damned if you gonna be my friend, steal my money, act like you ain't steal my money, try to help me find my money, all the while say, don't worry about it, I'm gonna take you go get something to eat with my damn money. We gotta fight. Like some of these really, when I read them, I was like, oh yeah, we gotta fight. That you gotta fight. You steal my money off top, wigs gotta get split. That's just how I get that's my get down. Okay. Wigs gotta get split if you steal my money. If you play with my money, it's 2 things I don't play with. My toilet and my money. I don't play with neither one. Don't play with my money. That person got to get got. And this leads to the second comment that I was just like, oh, I got to talk about this. So this person wrote, my friend stole my identity and opened up a business in my name and filed taxes on my son. Going to the police investigation, which is underway since April of last year, waiting on her arrest so I can monetize my story on what happened. Turn that story into a Reese Tisa story, please. I want to know all the particulars. Not only did they steal your identity and open up a business in your name, but they also filed taxes on your son? Yeah, no, I can't. Please, look, if you happen to be listening to the show or watching the show, when the investigation is finalized, please contact me. You can get my contact information on Instagram, also on the webpage. You can email us directly. I will find, look, let me tell you something. I will contact you directly because I want to know the story. I want to know how it happened, what you do when you found out. It's obviously you pressed charges, but what did you really initially want to do? File taxes on your son? And all my boy did was sleep with a girl that I liked. File taxes on my son? Oh man, that's crazy. Here's another one. This person said, my friend had sex with my man that I cried to her about on a daily after I took her to Barbados on New Year's Eve for free. Okay. You are crying about this man and you feel bad because your friend is holding you down and you crying about this man every day. I have a lot of female friends. They have talked to me about their relationship situations. I don't talk to none of them about my relationship situations. None of them. But they talk to me about their relationship situations all the time. And they be crying around me sometimes. I have empathy. But like consistently, I begin to get a little callous, a little cold with my remarks and be like, you still talking about this dumbass man? I'll say that. I got a friend I've known for over 20 years. This is my high school buddy. She is listening and watching to this show right now. Yes, I'm talking about you. She makes so many bad decisions about men and has for all the years that I've known her. And I never hesitate to let her know about it. So I understand how when you do something like that, talking to your friend every day about this person that's doing you wrong, how you might feel a little guilty and want to reward your friend for being there, being loyal, holding you down because you cry to them every day about this person and you're going to take them to Barbados on New Year's Eve just to have them sleep with your man. Another ass whooping got to be coming. Like a lot of these are ass whoopings that needed to be coming, right? But also, once again, another example of what my boy did wasn't really that bad. And on the grand scheme of things, if you grading it on a scale, it ain't really that bad compared to some of these comments. All right, here's another one. My friend told me her job had a hiring freeze when I was searching for a job after being laid off. And then I reached out to someone else that worked for the same company, and they got me an interview. And she wanted to know the lady's name. I cut her off after this. Now, this is bad because you've been laid off. You don't want to borrow no money. You just like, yo, is your job hiring? Can you at least get me in the door for an interview? And she said it's a hiring freeze. And she probably said that because there could be several reasons. She could have been a hater. It could have just been the fact that she was like, you know what? I don't want you working where I work because you're my friend and that could complicate things when we always around each other. I could get that. You could say that. You could say that and you could actively be like, I don't really want you to work for my job. Let's try to find you someplace else. If we can't, then absolutely I'll set you up for an interview, but we're going to have to set some boundaries. That's the way to handle it if that's your friend. But to come back, say that they're doing a hiring freeze, once again, you got to question yourself because you didn't trust your friend enough to believe it. You went around her back, found somebody else, got you an interview, and then confronted her about it. Was like, yeah, I got an interview. And she want to know the person's name. Yeah, she probably want to whoop that person's ass because she had some reasons why she didn't want you working there. But seems like neither one of y'all were good friends to each other. This ain't no ass whooping situation, but it's definitely y'all wasn't really holding each other down. All right, here's another one. My friend left me in jail in a foreign country because the wax pen we were both smoking 10 minutes prior to the arrest was left in my bag. Oh, and had the nerve to tell the cops, wait, are you arresting me too? Because it was in her bag. Oh, and then partied on the island all night, left me in jail, and I was released to an American family whose daughter had the same issues, and they told them I was a passenger of their cruise, and no one came to get me, so thank God for them. blocked, haven't spoken to her since I got off the ship in 2018, and that was my ride or die best friend. I guess that meant she ride and died. Okay, it wasn't written the best, but that's Instagram comments. Hey, let me tell you something. I ain't going to jail for none of my friends. If we was doing now, I'm not gonna snitch on none of them. And I don't agree with the fact that she was like, why am I getting arrested when it was in her purse? Because it could have been yours. It could have been hers. I would have tried to find some way to get my friend out. I wouldn't have went on and partied all night long. Being in jail in a foreign country is scary. She definitely wasn't your friend. And this is another ass whooping situation. I'm just going to put that out there. That's cold blooded. Thank goodness for that American family that vouched for you to help get you out of jail. All right, last one, and then I'm going to wrap this up. Oh my God, this bitch was coming to my house, stealing my clothes, and would help me look for them. She stole some of my money that I was buying for my new car. My brother had to get me off her because I was going to keep going at her, stomping her to the floor. Hate her forever. Then she tagged her. She put her tag in the comment and said, just pissed me off all over again. That's some of the look, the fact that she tagged her friend that did this to her in the comments. So of course I went to the page and I was just like, for shame. For shame. That's hilarious to me. That is a point of petty. That friend that slept with the girl that he introduced me to, I would never tag him. Right? Like that's me, him, and her's business. And for me, it's over with. I brought it up as a reference point, but that's crazy to tag somebody and to tag the actual person that you're talking about in the comments and said it was that chick. It was her. It was her ass that stole my clothes and stole my money, and I commenced to whooping her ass. And once again, fully commendable. That's an ass whooping situation. But as I digress, here's the uncomfortable part people don't want to talk about. Everybody loves talking about loyalty when it comes to friends. Everybody loves saying, that's my boy. That's my girl. That's my day one. But what people don't talk about is how some of the grimiest things that ever happened to you came from friends. Not strangers, not enemies, friends. And the reason it hits different is because friends occupy this weird space in our lives. They're not family, but sometimes they feel like family. They're not blood, but you treat them like blood. And that's where the problem starts. See, when family does something wild, we expect it. Family has been getting on our nerves since the invention of the Thanksgiving dinner. You already know your cousin might borrow money and suddenly disappear like he didn't join the witness protection program. But when a friend does you dirty, oh, that is different. Because friendship is supposed to be chosen loyalty. Nobody assigned them to you. You picked them. So when that loyalty breaks, it feels personal. And sometimes we make it worse because we start putting friends into different categories. You see, you got the casual friend, the we hang out sometimes friend. Then you got the brother from another mother friend, the sister friend, the ones you trust so much you don't even think twice when you're around them. And those are the people we let get away with stuff we would never tolerate from anybody else. They cancel plans at the last minute. It's cool. That's my guy. They borrow money and take 6 months to pay it back. Man, he going through something right now. They sabotage your chances with somebody you like and then casually say over drinks, oh yeah, I smashed that. You were taking too long. You let it go. You let it go. You let it go like they just ordered the last, or you let it go like they just took the last wing off a plate. It's no big deal. It's an inconvenience, but that's your people, right? Now, if a random dude did that, you might flip the whole damn table over. But when it's your friend, now you're sitting there trying to process it like, wait, are we still cool? or do I have to fight in this bar? And then you see posts like Justin LeBoy's asking people what's the grimiest thing a friend ever did to them, and suddenly the comments look like a criminal confession booth. Friends stealing money and helping you look for it, friends stealing your identity, friends sleeping with your partner, friends leaving you in jail in another country and then going out to party. At that point, that ain't your friend. That's a seasoned villain in your life story. But here's the real lesson. Not every friend deserves family-level access to your life. Some people are drinking buddies. Some people are co-workers you laugh with. Some people are cool to hang out with. But the moment you start giving somebody brother or sister status, you're giving them access to hurt you in ways strangers can't. Because betrayal from an enemy, that just makes you angry. Betrayal from a friend, it makes you rethink your judgment. So maybe the real rule of friendship is simple. Everybody can be friendly, but not everybody gets family privileges. Because sometimes the people closest to you aren't the ones who stab you in the back. Sometimes they're the ones who do it while you're sitting right next to them at the bar. All I'm saying is choose wisely, set boundaries. But on that note, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for listening. I want to thank you for watching. And until next time, as always, I'll holla. Woo! That was a hell of a show. Thank you for rocking with us here on Unsolicited Perspectives with Bruce Anthony. Now, before you go, don't forget to follow, subscribe, like, comment, and share our podcast wherever you're listening or watching it to it. Pass it along to your friends. If you enjoy it, that means the people that you rock will enjoy it also. So share the wealth, share the knowledge, share the noise. And for all those people that say, well, I don't have a YouTube. If you have a Gmail account, you have a YouTube. Subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can actually watch our video podcast and YouTube exclusive content. But the real party is on our Patreon page, After Hours Uncensored and Talking Straight-ish. After Hours Uncensored is another show with my sister. And once again, the key word there is uncensored. Those are exclusively on our Patreon page. Jump onto our website at unsolicitedperspective.com for all things us. That's where you can get all of our audio, video, our blogs, and even buy our merch. And if you really feel generous and want to help us out, you can donate on our donations page. Donations go strictly to improving our software and hardware so we can keep giving you guys good content that you can clearly listen to and that you can clearly see. So any donation would be appreciative. Most importantly, I want to say thank you for listening and watching and supporting us. And I'll catch you next time. Audi 5000. Peace.